I want to take the viewers through a little bit of your background. You have a wealth of experience in the hockey design industry, and many of your own brands or projects people are probably familiar with. So like off the top of, my head, I think Verbero, I think Hopa, Onyx, and your recent work collaborating with Alkali. What was the impetus for each of these projects?
They all kind of started completely independently, in various forms. Verbero started. I was had just finished college at that point and was managing a roller hockey rink. I was pretty young, and it was just a situation where my college buddy and I we had like no money, and we wanted to do something else, and we wanted to he was a designer also, and I wanted to do something in the hockey industry. And at that time, really there hadn't been any new advancements in roller hockey pucks still in like 15 years. So that was the first product we created because it was something that we could afford to develop and bring to market, and it was it was successful. And then the brand grew a lot from there. Each company kind of has its own unique story. Hopa, after Verbero sold, it was that was something where the factory approached me and said we wanted to try something new where we're doing direct consumer custom hockey sticks. And they said this was what they wanted to do, but they're a factory, they have no idea how to do any kind of marketing or brand development. They can just basically make the sticks and send them. So that's how that all started. Onyx was another project where it was more of just a complete startup, trying something completely new, trying to merge technology, at the time, what was, health data tracking with hockey and other sports. And then, 96 brand was, that's a really kind of different story in itself. So, but they all kind of have their unique origins. But yeah, it was just a path that I started on, as a hockey player and a designer, where just kind of, one step to the other. It wasn't planned out in any way. It just kind of, everything happened one at a time. Most of them myself and other partners, we've created, from the beginning. I have, been very fortunate to work with companies like Alkali, and I have to mention Mars Blade. Had tremendous experience with them, and it's a very sad day hearing about what happened with Pear. He and I had several trips to Asia together working on product, and I think anybody you talk to would say he was the best of us. It's that's a whole nother conversation we could have, but yeah, that's basically my background.
And I appreciate you mentioning Pear. I know that Roller Dad had posted about that, and the news was spreading about that, and it's a tough day in the hockey community for sure. Going from your work with all of those projects into the 96 brand, what learnings did you take from those previous experiences into essentially revitalizing a beloved lineage of skates from the Nike catalogs of the 90s? What inspired you to resurrect the throwback Nike roller hockey skate design?
Yeah, it's a good question. It happened very innocently, where it was during COVID, and I was in France, and everything was locked down, and there was no hockey. There was really nothing going on for most people in the world. And I was just watching old highlights, and I saw the Fedorov skate from '96 that was never released, the one that he went on to win the Conn Smythe and his first Stanley Cup wearing them, and it was all incredible. And I always remember just thinking that was the design that stood out to me as being just so striking and original. And I remember just thinking, like, my factories are calling me every day, like, hey, is there any work for us? Like, is there anything going on? I'm like, no, there's not a lot going on. I was thinking, what, I could just make a pair of these for myself. And so I created the design, combining today's technology and materials with that original design. And I was talking to my friend Sean from Coast Hockey Shop in Vancouver, and just kind of like, sharing it with him, because I know he is equally as passionate a hockey historian, especially with that period, as I am. and he was just kind of like, oh, I have to have a pair too. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sure we can make 2 pairs. That's okay. And then one thing led to another. He's friends with Pavel Barber, and of course he, said the same thing. I have to have a pair. So then it became like we made like 4 or 5 pairs of samples and sent them out. And then it wasn't until then when Pavel Barber posted a video that I really saw the response from everybody. Like, hey, this is, Nike should be back in hockey, and this is, people would love to have this, retro equipment available. So that's really how it started, and that's where it kind of put me on the path to having many months of dialogue with Nike, and also developing all the different proof of concept items that we did, and eventually led to the point where Nike's in a very transitional period right now, and they have been for the last couple of years. Their response ultimately was, not right now. They didn't say no, they just said not right now. And when I said, well, what does that mean? And does that mean like in a year? And they said, we have no idea. Like, it depends who's working in those departments in the future, because everything was transitioning. But my main contact, he said, I remember he told me, he's like, I think you have something here that people like. And he said, you have our permission to use the designs, but you can't use any of our branding, our trademark. But they said, that's fine. And I talked to my colleagues, and I got a mixed response. Some of them were like, no, don't do it. And the other ones were like, yeah, go for it. And it was just kind of a, let's see what happens, and I put it out there, and the response was very positive. I was surprised. But yeah, that's basically how it all transpired.
I love that. It was very organic, because I was doing some digging around, and I saw that Pavel Barber was involved with Onyx, and it sounds like you've maintained a line of communication with him, and that it really just blew up from there once you started making skates for friends and they reshare it. And that was actually my next question, and you answered it, was what was like the communication, what was that like with Nike? Were they receptive regarding your work with like the Nike Zoom inspired skates? But it sounds like it was one of those like, not now, but we'll see where it kind of goes. Is that kind of the vibe? Is it in a holding pattern right now?
Well, I wouldn't say it's in a holding pattern. I would say that some of the challenges during that time, like especially it's like a 6-month period of dialogue, and I spoke to various people, but like the people that were in the roles that would be making these decisions they didn't even exist. Like either the person who was there was moved or let go, and there was a new person coming in. So in many ways, I don't want to say the timing wasn't right, it just wasn't even possible. And I will say there are people at Nike that were incredibly passionate about it and very supportive, and wished more than anything that this would happen. But the people at the very top, they either just felt it wasn't the right timing, or they didn't know how to proceed. So I don't know. I'm hoping that this continues, and that down the road, in some shape or form, Nike will come around to it. I mean, there's a lot of because of Pavel Barber doing his posts and other people, that's when I got contacted by Letang and Malkin and other players that I can't mention, but current players and retired players. So like no doubt it would, there are players that would be willing to use the gear today. They'd be excited to do it, even without being paid. But yeah, I mean, I think that's an opportunity that they have to evaluate internally, and hopefully they make the right decision. I will tell you, I'm sure you've probably heard that a colleague of mine has gotten the license, and it's going to be bringing Reebok hockey back. So that is one positive out of this, that one big brand may not be ready, but another one seems to be. So more brands like that coming in, I think that's wonderful for the sport.
Absolutely. I follow Chris Malky on Facebook, and I saw that he had just posted about that, I think a couple of weeks ago. So that was super exciting to see that announcement come down the pike.
I have some things on that. I wish to God I could show you, but I could get in big trouble. So, but I think that, Chris is working on great stuff, and I'm sure, people should be happy with what's coming, I think.
I know that you mentioned that you had designed skates for Latang, for Malkin, and if I recall, you just made just a couple of months ago custom skates for Sergei Fedorov, made
Mm.
especially for his retirement ceremony with the Detroit Red Wings. How surreal was that to make skates for him on such a significant occasion? And did you have the chance to meet him? What was his reaction like?
Yeah, that was really surreal. You know, I didn't work with him directly. They wanted me to fly there for the ceremony, but it's tough being here with the family, and it's, I mean, literally the opposite side of the world. And you know, I have young kids, and it would be quite a expedition to get out there just for the one night. I wish to God I could have done it, but it was still amazing to see his response, because I think, you know, it was all a big surprise for him. You know, working with the team, they did a great job keeping it all buttoned up until the very end, and when they literally, you know, unveiled him in front of him, and to see how excited he was. And I have some photo and video of him after the ceremony, like behind, I guess underneath Cholo's, or not Cholo's, Little Caesars Arena, where he was handling the skates and whatnot, and just to see how excited he was about it, it was pretty amazing for sure, because this is, you know, he is the source of the inspiration for this whole project, and to see him as happy as I was definitely amazing.
I saw it was, I think, January you had made that post, and I was so glad to see him reunited with those sweet skates. Those were so iconic. So that was a privilege for sure. Last question that I have, and we'll wrap up our time here. What's the next big thing CJ Gamble is working on in the roller hockey world? I know that you just posted about the goalie skates, the Just Do goalie skates, but what else is on the horizon?
I have a lot of different projects I'm kind of working on right now. You know, they're all, a handful of them are under development, so it's just gonna, the way it works is I test them out and see how they go, and see how people feel about them, and if the response is good. Like, I mean, to be honest, if you ever come here and play in our roller hockey league, or in some of, we have pickup games and stuff, you would get to see a lot more. The guys here, they, you know, in my league and whatnot, they see everything in advance. So if you ever got a chance to come out, you would learn a lot more. But you know, I'm working on the goalie skates, you know, for ice and for roller, for the 96 brand. I'm working on some new types of gloves and some sticks, and working with various other brands, and also I'm trying to do more similar partnerships to what we did with Fedorov, with other NHL legends. So just a lot of things kind of on the table, and have to wait and see what, you know, kind of comes to fruition. But never know. It's funny. I'm getting older, and I always say, like, this is my last year. I'm done with this. But every time I say that, something else kind of, you know, comes in. But you know, we'll see. It's definitely not over yet. So I'll keep you updated, and you know, you'll be the first to know.
That's too cool. I have to say, the first NHL player that pops into my mind when I think Nike involved hockey gear would be Mario Lemieux. I'm sure a lot of people would think that too. So that would be cool if you were able to do some sort of design for him too.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Let's see.
There you go. I love to see it. CJ, this was an absolute treat. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and thank you for your Instagram. I know everybody in the community loves it. So you know, keep doing what you're doing. It's great to see all of your posts when they come out.